Hello, welcome back to Inside the Data on Inside the Birds. I'm Geoff Mosher, and of course, we got the man who does all the data and analytics, Sam Finkel. And we're not reversing course or pivoting. We're adding a little. We're massaging a little bit of what we normally do here on Inside the Data. We of course are going to recap the Eagles' performance from an analytics standpoint against the Packers. But we're also going to go deep inside third down conversion, which has been an issue for the Eagles offensively all year long. And then we'll get into some of the decision making by the coaching staff from an analytics standpoint. So, Sam, it was obviously, I knew this was going to happen. I tried to address this with Adam in the post game. In the post game show, I really beat the drum that it's not easy to go into Lambeau. That's a good defense. A win against a team as good as the Packers, even though they're struggling now, is still good. But I sensed that this week was going to be more what's wrong with the team than what's right with the team. And I think some of that is fair. Obviously, the A.J. Brown situation is also added to the whole it feels like a loss after a win situation. But I want to ask you, when you were putting this together, what did you seek to find out? Because it was such an odd game, right? Especially offensively. What did you seek to find out from an analytics standpoint?
Yeah, I mean, what I was trying to find out first off was why the defense was so successful. And I honestly didn't really look too much into the offense because I felt that what was more interesting and compelling of the story is some of the decision making that the coaching staff that they attempted and that they actually did. So I felt like that was what was interesting with this game. I don't think this offense is going to have that game for offensively doesn't happen against every team. I mean, obviously, the Packers have an incredible defense. I think you have to say that. You have to acknowledge that. But I think what's interesting is the decision making by the coaching staff and just the rationale behind it. So I think that's really what the objective of this analysis and this inside the data is.
Good. I like taking different viewpoints. I mean, we could sit there and go through all of the offense for half the show and show not that we're not going to do it, but I like show like negative EPA, negative this, negative that, and everybody's going to say, well, "Yeah, I watched the game." You know what I'm saying? Like I know they didn't move the ball very well, but that's good. So I'm excited to go through those decision making calls with you, and then also some of the third down data that we've kind of harped on all year long, but we keep adding to it and finding new analysis on it.
And I think we've been early on that.
I'm
very proud of that. We found that, and this became a very talked about all over the place. But I do think we were pretty early on that.
Yeah, I mean, for the crowd of this is how they won last year, they're going to win a Super Bowl anyway, so they can win a Super Bowl anyway. I get it, but there's some really damning and incriminating third down offensive data that does not compare or is not consistent with last year's offense, which at times was very good on third, and if not, they were so great on fourth. But the Eagles aren't using fourth down as much this year as last year. They're converting, I'm sure, at a very high rate, but they're not constantly in fourth and short like they were because they are constantly in third and unmanageable. So it's been harder for them to set up fourth and manageable.
And something interesting that if I have time I'd like to look into between this year and last year is I just wonder if defenses are playing the Eagles differently because they don't want them to get into these third and short, third and manageable. I'm not 100% sure on that because that would involve a lot of study and analysis. But I almost wonder if that is part of it. And I'm sure it is to some extent.
Right. I mean, the one thing we did sort of talk about earlier in the year was the way defenses were blitzing the offense in the first half a lot and then completely changing script in the second half. And you saw the Eagles having real struggle to adjust to a complete change in philosophy. I didn't see that as much with the Packers, but we've seen it enough throughout the year to know that, there's things going on that defenses are trying to do. They even talked about that. Kevin Patullo and some of the offensive players talked about the extreme number of unscouted looks that they've been seeing this year. But that's also part of being a Super Bowl champion, that you're always going to have to see that to adjust.
No, absolutely. And I agree. And I do think that the blitz and changing it up has, like you said, caused some issues for the Eagles. And it's just interesting to see like what again, I want to say regression because it is to an extent, but I mean their record still reflects that they're a good team and they can find ways to win. So I don't think we ever want to take away when we talk about what is wrong with this Eagles team.
Right.
But I think we don't do our job unless we do talk about what could be better.
Right. I agree, Sam. And I know people reach out to you on different platforms, and, you've probably detected now that there is a certain segment, and I don't know how big it is, right? Social media is a terrible way to figure out if it represents the majority or minority opinion, but there is a certain segment of a base that wants to be like blissfully ignorant, or doesn't want you to, they don't want you to tell them it's raining just because it's very cloudy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But so they'll say, well, it doesn't matter. 7-2, 7-2. But we have 2 years ago evidence of a team being 10-1, but cracks in the foundation that led to a complete disruption, right? And I think some people are viewing this Lions game as almost like a 49ers type game from a couple of years ago, where if things go south and they get their asses kicked, like that could be the start of an unraveling. I'm not there yet. I don't think you are. I don't know who is. I agree it's an interesting test coming up. But the bottom line is, to your point, you have to be able to point out things that are not right. The better people in this business can tell you when things aren't right, even though they look right, and vice versa. And just a quick anecdote. I remember writing a story after the 2020 season, the terrible season, that went awry with Carson Wentz. And what I wrote about it at the end of the season was, as bad as everything looked, if you're a firm believer that good teams are built from the trenches out, and you look at the Eagles, with or without Carson Wentz, whatever happens, they still have a very good offensive line. At the time, they still had Lane, right? They still had Brooks. They still had Jason Kelsey. I forget who was. Sayamalu, I believe, was on the team, right? And on defense, they had Fletcher Cox. They had Brandon Graham. They just had an injury-plagued year, and everything went wrong for the quarterback, and then he had his own issues. So I said, you're not as far from being back to a good – that was the point of the column. You're not as far as you think from being a good team again. And, again, like – the reaction I got from people who said I carry water for the organization, I'm overly – you'll always get the extreme reaction, but if you're good at your job, what's true, right? When something looks bad but is better. When something's good but or looks good but might not be. And I don't know where I am yet with this Eagles team. I'm not trying to lead anybody down a path, but I think some of the analytics that we'll go through today at least shine a light on whether you should be concerned about some areas that go beyond 1 or 2 bad games or weeks.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good. Cool. Thanks for letting me share that anecdote. Hey, it's Geoff Mosher. And if you have a family and kids at home like me, you always want them to be fully protected. That's why I'm thrilled to be a Simply Safe customer. And our house is equipped with the most technologically advanced alarm system you can get. If you could actually stop someone from breaking into your home before they got inside, why wouldn't you? Traditional security systems only react after a break-in, but Simply Safe is different because it stops crimes before they happen with Active Guard outdoor protection. Their AI-powered cameras detect threats while they're still outside your home, and they alert real security agents. These agents take action while the intruder is still outside and confront the intruder to let them know they're being watched on camera and police is on the way. And that's how you stop a crime before it's committed. There's no long-term contracts or hidden fees. You can cancel anytime, and it comes with a 60-day money-back guarantee. Try it and see the difference for yourself. Do not miss out on Simply Safe's biggest sale of the year, 60% off. Our listeners get 60% off a Simply Safe home security system at simplysafe.com/bird. That's simplysafe.com/bird. Hey, I still like a good night out, but I'm not always in the mood to drink, and that's why I looked for a great alternative, and I found one. It's called Soul's Out of Office Gummies. You get the same light, happy buzz, but you don't have the hangover. There's no sugar, and you don't get that awkward feeling the next morning. They help me unwind and ease into my evening without the alcohol or the next day fog. Soul is a wellness brand that believes feeling good should be fun and easy. Soul specializes in delicious hemp-derived THC and CBD products designed to boost your mood and help you unwind. Their best-selling out-of-office gummies were designed to provide a mild, relaxing buzz, boost your mood, and enhance your creativity and relaxation. With 5 different strengths, you can tailor the dose to fit your vibe. From a gentle 1.5 milligram microdose to their newest 15 milligram gummy for a more elevated experience. They've also got a variety of products specifically designed to help you get a better night's rest, including Soul's top selling sleep gummy, a fan favorite for deep restorative sleep. So bring on the good vibes and treat yourself to Soul today. Right now, Soul is offering our audience 30% off your entire order. So go to getsoul.com and use the code BIRDS, BIRDS. That's getsoul.com, promo code BIRDS for 30% off. Here, these are the basic stats that we always get into after the game. It's sure, I mean, this tells a story of a great defensive effort by the Eagles. I mean, you look at it and just see all the green and think, the Eagles were great. But obviously, I think most of these stats reveal how well they played defensively.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And listen, this is one of the times where we see a lot more green, and I don't think the score really reflects how much more green the Eagles have relative to the Packers, obviously.
Right.
I mean, you look at it; they won the time of possession, they won the average starting field position, they won the yards per play, they won the yards.
You're calling that a win on field position, 29 to 28.8.
So here's the thing with the field position. You take away that Josh Jacobs fumble, and they lose it horribly.
That's a great point. So how that goes back to how often we talk about how important turnovers are.
Yeah, it truly is. Because, I mean, I think I was doing the average, and you take that out of it, and they were like 5 or 6 yards like below them. So, look, that does really matter.
I know when you were color coding this, you probably had some internal battle. Do I really give them green when it's 29 versus 28.8? If I round up, it's the same.
I did, but at the same time, I mean, look, they won. At the end of the day, they won, so it's worth it. I was a little surprised to see the penalty numbers because it didn't feel like they lost the penalty battle. And again, I've never highlighted the penalty battle because it's all subjective. Like, some of the times the other teams have had more penalties but less yards, so I never really highlight it. But in this case, they had 3 more penalties and 41 more yards.
Well, I think they have more false starts than the Packers did. Basically, Mailata had 2 on his own, and I think Toth or Lane had 1. So I think that,
those are some basic stats.
I mean, the one that really jumps out is yards per pass. At Eagles at 7, which is it's a pretty decent number, even in a game where you only scored 10 points. But that sort of goes to like their yards per play is 4.9, yards per pass is 7. They were once again a shot play offense. They got the 41-yard dump off to Barkley. They got the 36-yard touchdown. They got the 16-yard pass on 3rd and 12 to Devontae Smith, and that was the extent of their big plays. They also had I think a 20-yarder down the seam to Goddard. That four plays that factor heavily into that mark. And then the Packers yards per play and yards per pass were the same thing. I mean, they just could not move the ball effectively at all.
But and to be honest with you, I think this game changes if the Packers receivers are healthy.
Yes, there were also some pretty bad drops, right? Dobbs dropped 2 that were bad, and then Bo Melton, who I mean, the guy was playing corner, and then they moved him back to safety. He dropped 1, but I agree with you. I think if you have Golden, if you have certainly if you have Jaden Reed, they're really counting on those guys to come back and help their offense.
If the Eagles play the Packers in the playoffs, it will 100% be a different game.
1,000%. I agree totally.
But I also, to that same effect, I think the offense probably would play very differently. The Eagles offense.
I would agree with you on that one as well. Yeah.
But again, different game.
That's right. I mean, the first game in Brazil last year was a higher scoring, more offensive game. And then the NFC wildcard game was like a lower. So it's like 22-10. It was a completely different game.
But I will say there's only one team that really scares me in the playoffs. I know we're really early for it, but there's only one team that really scares me.
Just one. All right, do tell. Is it? Well, can I try to guess it?
Yep.
Seahawks.
It's not the Seahawks. I do think the Eagles can handle them pretty well.
Wow, only because their play action game is so good that it kind of negates pressure, which is what the Eagles are, and because their defense is really good. I for some reason I'm thinking you're not thinking the Rams, even though the
I am
Rams.
thinking the Rams.
Okay, all right, that would have been my second guess.
It will never be the same as what happened when they already played them. Like I said, when we talked about that one, I mean, that you don't win games like that normally.
That's a great point. I mean, to your point, Sam, the last 2 times they played the Rams, Stafford was 13 yards away in a snowstorm. They escaped. And then, of course, the field goal block, they escaped. So there's only so many times you can live on the edge against a really good team, right?
Yeah, and Sean McVay is just a schematic genius, and what he's done this year in 13 personnel. Look, hopefully I'll get to talk about it because it's very interesting, and you got to beat the best to be the best. But I would also be very happy if we never talk about the Rams again this year.
Very fair. By the way, not only the use of 13 personnel, but they're using all 4 tight ends interchangeably in that 13. How many teams have 4 tight ends that are actively involved in a game plan for many consecutive weeks? That's impressive.
Yeah, it really is.
All right, let's get to our favorite topic, third down stats. Now you've put a table here. I'll let you explain.
Yeah, I mean, listen, this is the same table we've had for the past we've done this for like 7 weeks at this point.
Yeah.
When we first realized that there were those issues, that's kind of where we were at. And basically, what is interesting is the Eagles actually were better at third down this week as opposed to different weeks. And their opponents were actually worse. So the stats you see are better than what they were last time we looked at this. If you remember, we did not look at this for the Giants game. Right. Because we did a different it was over the
like bye week look back, yeah,
about different things. And honestly, I thought it would be more interesting to take a different approach. But we're back. It's updated since that, including the Giants game as well.
Right.
And so the first chart just shows, their relative third down statistics. And then if you look at the second chart, that one is based on where it is on the field. And again, they changed a little bit, but nothing too crazy. I mean, they're third and short. They didn't have that many opportunities, still have not had that many opportunities. It's been disproportionately third and long, and that has continued. And their opponents are significantly putting themselves in better positions on third downs. That's really the key takeaway. We could look at the numbers all we want, but it's been telling the same story. So to not be too repetitive, you could just look at the chart right here and you can see, they are more effective than their opponents on third and short because they have a play that is pretty much unstoppable on third and short. But the problem is their opponents are getting there 3 times more.
Yep, that's right. I want to go back to Eagles third down conversion sets from this game against the Packers and why it's somewhat misleading. Well, it's not misleading. They did that, but why it sort of feels like 1 step forward, 2 steps back. Okay. So the Eagles were 7 of 16 for those listening. You can't see the charts on third down against the Packers. That's 44%. That's higher than their season average of 35%, which is very bad. And even higher than last year's average of 42%, which was pretty good. I don't remember where they ranked last year. It wasn't like top 5, I don't think, but it was pretty good.
No, it wasn't. But yeah.
But so they were 7 of 16. Now they converted their first 3 third downs on that second drive, the drive that they were marching the ball really well. Right. And then Hurts fumbled. So they were finally converting third down. And I do, the first 15 plays, to me, it's like how you settle into a game. It's great because the Eagles have had a couple of games this year where they've started off really good, first 15 plays, awesome, and then like reverted into a funk. But so if you take the fact that they were 3 for 3 and should have been 4 for 4 because Hurts ran for the first down before fumbling, right? And then say they're 7 of 16. Well, that means that they were 4 of 13 the rest of the game, which, I don't want to say that the first 3 don't count. They certainly count. That helps, but they got no points out of it. And then for the rest of the game, they were back into a 33-34 conversion rate. So I don't want to call it misleading because the numbers are what they are. They converted the first 3, but it didn't help them because they turned the ball over the one drive where they were really good at converting third down.
No, I think that's a really important stat, and I appreciate you bringing it up. It felt, and again, I know we really like to stay in an analytic lens, but I can't help but, interject my opinion sometimes.
Sure.
It just felt that after that fumble, Hurts played a little bit differently, and Tulo called the plays differently. It felt like a shift, and I don't think there needed to be a shift.
I agree with you. And Adam and I talked about this, and even Greg Cosell, like all of us in each time have been sort of over the last few years, by a segment of the fan base, think that we're overly critical of JalenHurts or that we're hater. I mean, there's the extreme. We hate JalenHurts, which is not true. I've felt, and I'll say it here on this show, I have felt JalenHurts has actually played quarterback, the passing part of the position better this year and has made more tight window throws this year. And maybe we'll do a look back on that at some point, right? I mean, going back to that game where he threw that route to AJ Brown between two, I think it was the Vikings game, right? Where it was a beautiful throw. We have seen that. And so I felt that they took the ball out of Jalen Hurts' hands in this game. And sometimes when you say, well, they're clearly hiding the quarterback, it makes you think that you agree with the decision. I did not. I thought they did play hide the quarterback, but didn't need to play hide the quarterback. But that was their decision. They did. It's one thing if he's off to a rough start and then you're like, all right, we got a downshift, right? They were off to a good start passing the ball. And they downshifted anyway after the fumble or for whatever reason. And I just thought that was a mistake.
Just so you know, as we were talking, you're right, actually. Your intuition, as usual, is right. Hertz is at 16.6% tight window as opposed to 16.3% last year.
Yeah, so it's up a little bit. I mean, that's probably not huge, but like to the naked eye, he certainly made more passes that you and I and other shows talking about. Like, whoa, he planted his foot and threw that ball in a way that like he doesn't always do or consistently do as much. So, it was a strange time, especially coming out of the bye, for them to be like, let's pump the brakes on that.
No doubt. But that's a good insight by you. Just you could tell. Nice.
Yeah. I wanted to give the guy some credit. I thought he deserved it.
No doubt.
All right, so the situational third down stats. Now, this is what you were pointing to, the look at where they are on the field. And, man, they continue to have more third and longs than their opponent this year.
Yeah. Yeah, they really do.
No, that's not correct. I'm sorry. The opponents are at 30%. They're at 21%. But I get what do we say? If you add their third and medium and add their third and long, it's quite a bit.
Yeah, it's kind of ridiculous when you look at it.
Yeah. Opponent 16-30. Wow, it's amazing how third and mid they're 15 of 33 on third and medium for them is 45%. For their opponent, 13 of 33 is 39. That's a staggering drop for just two different, like for like -2 on the conversion rate there, right?
Yeah, it is. And as you can see, like actually these numbers are kind of normalizing a little bit.
Yeah. It was really more that we discussed that they are in third and long more than they are in third and short and third and medium combined. And that continues to be the case. And that's the most damning stat of it all.
But then you look at the opponent, I mean, it's not the case. It's
Correct.
Not the case. So it is interesting.
Yeah.
And then we got the visual breakdown in the table below.
I love this little these pie charts. I always like pie charts.
They're fun.
Yeah, the color coded and everything. I like it.
And those charts are updated, so you can see. Honestly, they're looking very similar. Their opponents are in terms of third and long, but you look at it. There's third and short for the opponents is a lot better. Like it's a lot worse this year, so that they're allowing more third and short opportunities for their opponents,
which are easily convertible. Yeah, especially when you're playing good teams.
Yeah. Which is a problem. And like we are, talking up the defense quite a bit, and we will talk up the defense quite a bit, but like that's not sustainable. That's a problem. That's also a problem.
Yep. Although it did look, to your point, right, like with the addition of Jalen Phillips, that part of it got better, because I don't know if we're going to get into this that much. I don't remember. I'm sorry, but like Vic had, I think, his lowest or second lowest blitz total.
Oh, we're getting into it.
Okay, we'll go. Yeah, we'll get into that. Okay. All right. So I still think it's, the big takeaway here is in 2025, they're in 3rd and long on 57% of their snaps compared to their opponent on 45.4. So that's also not great.
It's not great.
Not great at all. All right. So you and I stumbled across this and thought it was really important to highlight. It goes back to the 3rd down conversation, and then also the conversation about, are you allowed to be concerned about something even though the team is 7-2, right? And is it fair to talk about it? So Dennis Selzman is a guy, I know he works for a couple different outlets. He's really into analytics. He's covers the Eagles. He puts
Awesome
together
content.
he puts together great charts, line graph type charts that measure the Eagles statistically. And we came across this on X. And again, he's at Dennis DENIZ Selman SELMAN 33. And the first thing he talked about is the rate of 3 and outs that the Eagles have, which I believe they still lead the NFL in.
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah. That's what it says here. Eagles still going 3 and out more often than any offense in the NFL since 2014. So we're talking about over a decade. All right. This 2025 Eagles team, right, has gone 3 and out more than any team since 2014. And they're getting away with it, is what Dennis says, because they have a 7-2 record.
Listen, high highs, low lows. That's where this shows.
Total shot play offense. I wish we knew. Does it say here which team? He has all these teams and where they are on 3 and outs, but not from 2014 and not which team that was.
Sure.
But that's okay, right? Because
okay.
he gives the context in the next line graph. But
absolutely.
Anything that jumped out to you on this?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting that their their touchdown rate is higher than last year's.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. It's interesting. It really is.
It looks like it's on the same exact. Well, do we have the exact number? Because it looks like 2025 they're just under 35%, and 2024 it might be like 34 or 33. I don't know. But just the fact that it's in line is pretty interesting. Yeah,
they're close, but it's definitely higher
right
this year. So, but not as high as 2022, which looks like it's exactly 35%. So
correct. So they've scored the same amount, even though in last year their 3 and out drive was much more middle of the pack, and then this year it's like they're like, if this were a race, they're winning by like 4 legs.
Yeah, and not to beat a dead horse here, but like, not sustainable, right? This I mean, the sequencing is a problem. They haven't figured it out. It's just not sustainable. You're going to lose games if you keep going 3 and out.
Yep.
You're going to lose games if you keep being 3rd and long, disproportionately relative to your opponent. It's just not a winning formula. They get away with it. They very much get away with it, but it is not a sustainable winning formula.
All right. And so he follows that up. Somebody asked him, so they asked him, well, what's the history of teams with this kind of 3 and out rate and their overall win-loss success? So he says, here it is, avoiding 3 and out rate on an x-axis. And, so he's got the x-axis, the y-axis here. And basically what he's found that since 2000, the only team to finish even close to decent 500 with a 3 and out rate that the same as the Eagles have this year was the 2009 49ers. So 16 years ago, right? They were 8-8. So the point is, when you have a 3 and out rate this bad, the best you can do over the last 16 years is be 8-8. And somehow the Eagles are 7-2. I'm going to reiterate that. The best you can be, which means that probably, and if you look at the chart, I mean, it doesn't take a genius to figure it out. 75% of teams are probably terrible with this 3 and out rate, and the Eagles are 7-2. That is to me, Sam, it's a dangerous outlier.
Listen, they are the anomaly. This is an anomaly season for a lot of reasons. This is a big one. Will they figure it out? They still have time. That's the fun thing. They still have time to figure it out.
They do.
It would help if public facing that they were all on the same page. Maybe that would help a little bit, but and I really don't. I've been so supportive of AJ Brown this entire time, but come on, man. At some point, I don't know. I try to keep it at that point because I do respect him. I think he's a great player. I think he has a lot of value. But
Right.
it's at some point you just gotta resolve your issues internally and stop, adding fuel to the fire.
Yeah, I mean, I think, and I know that there's a lot, this is very divisive for a lot of people, but I think for many of us, it's fair to say that nothing AJ Brown has said is factually inaccurate or as thrown an individual under the bus, but the way that he constantly says it in platforms that are meant to be catch headlines shows you that he's trying to make his point known, and maybe not the most constructive way. I think that that's fair. And something Adam and I brought up is that seems to go fine when you're winning, right? But when you lose a game or you lose 2 of 4 or something like that, then it manifests and becomes much, much worse.
Yeah. I
So they keep
100% agree.
winning, it's right. They keep winning, it's fine. But like we're going through the analytics here, there are some things to suggest that trouble could be on the way. And then that part of it could make that trouble even worse. And then the
Yeah.
foundation comes apart.
There's indications of issues. And if the Eagles do collapse, which none of us want to see, there are significant warning signs and explanations. But we've been pointing this out for weeks. Do we think that the Eagles know that these issues exist? Absolutely. Like they 100% know that these are issues. What concerns me is that it doesn't seem like they fixed it since the bye week. And that was like the perfect time to figure it out. Doesn't mean that they won't figure it out. They still have a lot of games left. But it does concern me that these repeated issues still exist.
100%. All right, let's take a look. Advanced analytics of the Eagles-Packers game. Offensively, I guess the big number that jumps out to start with is that their pass EPA per pass was plus 0.31, which is very high and above their season average of 0.04. But that's sort of, is that weighted, I guess, by A, the lack of high volume throws, and then B, the when he did throw, there were shot plays that worked.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, how much does that dump off to SaquonBarkley that goes for 41 yards, which is, I'm not going to take credit away, but there's nothing involved in that for JalenHurts. He just didn't see what he wanted and threw the ball to Saquon, right?
Yeah. And by the way, I will say AJ Brown probably had his best play of the game on that
blocking.
play.
Great blocking. Yeah.
It was great blocking, great body positioning. I mean, he took 2 guys out of the play.
He did. We highlighted that on Inside the Tape.
It was incredible. And like I said, I really love AJ Brown. I love the contributions that he does. And that is on a winning football team, that is a huge contribution.
Right.
I mean, most receivers don't even take 1 guy out of the play. So
right.
I just want to point that out. So
fair. And if the Giants game was 1 step forward for the run game, the Packers game is sort of 2 steps back as their EPA goes to -4. That's almost 4 times worse than what their normal season EPA is, if I'm doing math correctly there. Or I might not be doing math correctly there, but it's really bad at -0.45.
Yeah, it's not ideal. I mean, their EPA per rush is pretty close to 0. So, I mean, it was positive for most of the beginning of the season, and it just fell off.
Yeah, and by the way, I bet you if you did their EPA per rush by halftime, it wasn't this bad. They really, I mean, it seemed, Barkley had the 15-yard run. Bigsby had a decent run. Shipley had an okay run. Like, they were gaining yard. Well, I don't know. I guess that was probably the 3rd and 12. See, I think some of this is impacted by the 3rd and 12 submissive runs that the Eagles did, 3rd and long, because you probably get a negative EPA on those, even though the coaching staff wants to do that, right?
Yeah, and honestly, I am usually a fan of the 3rd and long draw. I know people hate it. But I think it's a pretty good strategy. The issue that I have is they're at 3rd and long way too much.
Yes.
That's all.
I agree. They have converted a heck of a lot of 3rd and mediums to 3rd and longs with the running game by surprise. But I also think, Sam, when they do that, usually like design a cool little kick out. It's not just a run up the middle.
No, it never
is.
Those
games, the ones against the Packers felt like submissive. We're just running it up the middle.
No, it did, and I get it. But it's just I think the frustration stems from the fact that this is an aggressive team, and yet in situations where you can and like historically should be aggressive, they're not. So I understand that frustration, and I really do understand it. But there are times where they need to be conservative. It's just you're there disproportionately. That's all.
Right. I love your stat on sort of the time to throw versus the time to be pressured. He had more time to throw. He was pressured faster, and therefore, so you're happy with sort of protection, but he did get pressured quicker. So there could have been some holding onto the ball, some good defense. Your NTBP, which is spelled out again,
Before pressure.
Net time before pressure, lower than what it has been for the season.
This is the worst I've ever seen. This is the worst net time before pressure I've ever seen. And Hurts gets away with it because he's an extender and can be. But almost 1 second of just holding onto the ball while pressured is just not a recipe for success. And it's probably part of the reason there was only 10 points scored in this game by the Eagles.
That's right. And he was pressured at a lower rate, a much lower rate than normal, at 20% compared to 37%.
And not sacked.
Correct.
Which is insane, holding the ball for 1 second, almost 1 second past the pressure time, and you still, get away with no sacks and lower pressure rate. It's crazy. That is insane.
Yep. Lower run success rate, obviously, than what the season is, which is not great because, the season has been a struggle. Stuffed rate. Well, I guess I thought that would be interesting. I thought it seemed to me in the second half, every time he touched the ball, he was getting killed behind the line of scrimmage.
Yeah. But hey, that's what the numbers say.
Yep, that's what the numbers are. All right. This also counts other people's runs, and I think quarterback run, right?
It does, yes.
Yeah, so JalenHurts probably his 11. Well, how does that work? Does the 11-yard run on 3rd and 8 that results in a fumble still result in a positive run success, or does the fumble factor in?
The fumble factors in, so
okay.
It would not.
Interesting. All right.
And by the way, that fumble, the little peanut punch type play that you saw, also an anomaly. I mean, Hurts doesn't usually fumble that, and I don't think he would have if the punch out wasn't perfect.
I agree. I thought that was a rare turnover where you say great job by the opponent more than sloppy job by the
100%. But mentally, I really do think it affected Hurts and Batula, which is a problem. I not to harp on it, but I really do think mentally that had a toll on this game.
Yeah, and maybe for both coaches because Love's fumble came a little bit later, but it looked like he didn't want his quarterback throwing the ball much either.
Yeah. I mean, listen, winning the turnover battle is huge in this game, and it's in a small in a low scoring game. Winning the turnover battle winning the turnover battle is important regardless. But when possessions are somewhat limited, which they look like they were going to be, right? You look at the first quarter, there was only 2 possessions in the first quarter.
Yeah.
Now the Eagles 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out, which added to that. But the way the game flow was going, I mean, you really had to be, conservative with your possessions and try to hold on to the ball as much as possible. Right. I think that was the thought process, at least.
Sure. And I guess more kind of ominous for the run game is that they saw a stacked box at, a quarter of the time as opposed to where they usually is a third of the time, and they still really couldn't get the run game going. Separation stats are about right around season average. So that's average separation per target, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. So right around where they've been in season 3.6. And that was all next gen stats. Let's get to your game theory. I'm really excited to hear your takes on this.
All right. So let's just talk about this right now. Basically, I used Pro Football Reference's win probability calculator. There's probably better models out there. I used it because anybody can use it. You guys can, after we're done this podcast, you guys can look it up and you can run through your own scenarios. And I had a lot of fun going through the scenarios and trying to map out, because one of the things I think we talk about a lot is the Eagles should have done this. They should have done that. And I think it's important to understand contextually why they did it in the game and how it affects, their win probability. And this is kind of a real life model of what they do. Now, their models factor in stuff that, so for instance, just to tell you what this model actually uses, because I think it's important to, always qualify what we're doing. This one used score differential, time remaining, field position, and yards to go, as well as quarter and down. Those were the statistics that Football Reference's win probability. It didn't factor in timeouts.
Okay.
Look, there's no way to film their wind was not great in that stadium. It was a problem.
Right.
Man was struggling to punt earlier
Yep.
in the game. So you can't factor that into these models. There's no way to. So I think that's important. Just talk about what the issues with the model are.
Okay.
But now that we've done that, let's go talk about the situation.
Okay.
The Eagles are 10-7. They're leading. So they're up 3 points. It's the fourth quarter, 33 seconds. 4th and 6 on the 35-yard line. 0 opponent timeouts. Their win probability as it stands is 96.99%.
So wait, you have is the 0 opponent timeouts just you're adding to it, or
I just wanted to talk about the situation.
Okay.
We can't factor that into the model because I think it's important, because if you get that first down, you ice the game, you win.
Oh,
That's
of course.
at the end of the day. That's the reason. I wanted to spell out the entire situation in its entirety. So
just wanted to clarify that wasn't part of what you can enter into the equation.
Correct. At least in this model, there are, like I said, there are more advanced models, and all models are going to have different things. I just want to tell you what I use for this analysis, and so I think it's a good model.
Yep.
I think there are better ones. That's what I'll say.
Okay.
So drawing offsides definitely is the.
Oh, wait. You didn't. The win probability in that situation is 97% for what you punched into the computer.
Mm-hmm.
All right,
and
cool.
it doesn't change crazy enough as a 4th and 1 versus a 4th and 6.
Right.
Which is interesting. But knowing this Eagles team, if they were able to get it to a 4th and 1, it would just be a tush push, which you're almost automatic on. So that is the optimal strategy. But obviously, and then like you would call a timeout or take the delay of game. But honestly, ideally the timeout.
Yes.
I'm just saying that.
How awesome, by the way, just a real quick aside, is if they were able to get the Packers to go offsides and then they literally won the game, drained the clock on a tush push against the Packers, who are vehemently against the tush push. That would have been
iconic.
Yes.
Sure. But I mean, they weren't able to draw them offside, so it's kind of a moot point, which is why I just put this here because it's interesting, but it's not really going to be part of our analysis. I do think it's interesting that this model does not think 4th and 1 is more advantageous than 4th and 6. And I think it shows limitation to this model, because I think 4th and 1 is significantly better, and I think it should impact win percentage.
Yeah, you should be able to enter on your own what the team that you're studying's 4th down conversion rate is for the season to see if that changes the theory equation.
I agree with you, but unfortunately not here. So so now that we talked about that strategy, I think it's important to look at the 3 actual strategies that exist, right? Punting, field goal, or go. Now, before we actually go into this, what would have been, if you had that headset on, what would your mindset be? What would you have picked?
So I was weighing at the time between field goal and punt, and I understand the wind and the issue, but I mean, Jake Elliott has been a really good bad weather kicker in his career, and he hasn't struggled this year like he did last year when he was dealing with the injury. So, part of me was really like, go for it, go kick the field goal and go up 13-7, because then they have to score a touchdown to beat you. But then I thought, well, then if you're scared, just then punt and make them go the length of the field. Running a play was not in my modus of thinking at that point.
So you want to hear something crazy?
Yeah.
The field goal is the worst possible choice.
I figured that was going to be the case.
And it's a little bit surprising because it's counterintuitive.
Yeah.
Because, you take the tie out of the equation.
Right.
You're going to force the offense to throw the ball. They're going to have to be aggressive. But there's been too many times that, you see teams that go up 6 and then the other team scores the touchdown and walks off. It's happened this year multiple times.
Yeah. I mean, I could see why the punt analytically would be the number one and you haven't told me what it was, but I could see, because then they have to go the length of the field and score 7 points, or no, I'm sorry. A punt, you only have to score 3. But on a day where it's tough for them to even get yardage, and you have to at least make them go, I don't know, like you punt the ball. If you're able to, let's say even it goes in the end zone, touchback, they still have to get the ball like 40 to 50 yards with no timeouts.
Yeah, and one thing I don't think this model has factored, and I don't think it can, at least this year, is that kicking has been expanded, right? With the new kicking balls, you can get a field goal a lot further. Now, again, the wind conditions were not great in this game, as we saw with McManus. But I do think that factors into this somehow, and it probably should change at least some of the modeling.
Mm-hmm.
But so I think there's two ways you look at this, right? And the reason why you make the decision. What happens if I'm successful? What happens if I fail?
Yeah.
I think that's the two, and then what is the delta between my success and failure? And I think that's what we'll look at with this. So punting, again, the wind conditions and punting were not great in the game. Man kind of struggled, and I think Man's been a great punter, honestly,
Yeah.
throughout his entire tenure with the Eagles. This is one of the games where he struggled. I wind or not, he struggled. And honestly, I kind of feel like it stemmed from the time he got kind of hit. I think it was the first punt of that they did.
I think the Packers probably came after him a little bit more than I've seen other teams do. They would look like they were in full punt rush on a bunch of those punts.
So that's just worth noting, and I think that definitely factored in to Coach Sirianni's head, and I think that was part of it.
Right.
So again,
by the way, I have to correct myself because I think I said I would have punted, and if it goes in the end zone, it gets to 20. It's obviously the 35 now, which is where the ball was anyway. So, but go ahead.
But if they punt, it would be the 20.
Oh yeah, the punt. Yeah, what am I talking about? I'm sorry. I'm thinking kickoff touchback. I thought I made a mistake, but I didn't. Yeah, punt would have been.
No, yeah. You're great. Don't worry. You don't make
mistakes.
Called
overthinking something. Go ahead.
Listen, but we want to be as transparent and give the best information. So we'll admit when we make mistakes because it happens. It happens. It does.
Go ahead.
But again, with the punt, opposing offense will play a little more conservatively as they have the tie in their pocket, presumably. And then I assumed a punt time of about 5 seconds. I think I looked it up, and the average punt time was like 9 seconds. But based on where they are on the field, there's no way that it would take 9 seconds. And plus the urgency. So I think 5 was a fair thing.
Okay.
So again, punt. I looked at several outcomes of the punt. A touchback, their win percentage goes from that 96.99 to 89.27. If they get it to the 30-yard line, if they return it to the 30-yard line, it goes from that 97% to the 80 to 88%. But if you get him in the 15-yard line, it's 92.86, or the 10-yard line or less. I checked every single one because I was gonna do a little bit further. It goes to 95.39. So your win percentage goes, if you're successful, which I think a successful punt would be 10-yard line or less, which is possible if you just hang it really high in the air and get it, to fair catch it.
Sure.
Your win percentage goes from 96.99 to 95.39.
Right. So no matter what scenario, your winning percentage drops, though, as you mentioned.
It does drop. Yes.
Yeah.
Because you're giving them
some cases considerably. Yes.
Only up 3. But as you'll see, that drop is the least drop that you'll see. If the failure again would be them getting the. It could be them scoring on the punt, but there never would be a situation where they even really put it in play. That's why I thought the 30-yard line, because I could see maybe them picking if it was not a great punt. I don't know. I really don't see a situation where you put that ball in harm's way in that punt if you decide to punt. But again, the worst case scenario that I've outlined is if they got it on the 30-yard line, and that's an 87. It goes down from 97 to 88. So. And we'll see, you go to the field goal again, win conditions, not ideal. You go up 6, if successful, and you kick, and it's going to be a touchback. It probably will be because, that it'll go to 91.68%. So even up 6, giving them by virtue of giving them the ball back, it goes from 97 to 92.
Oh, again, a drop.
But if you're not successful, and this is a really important point, it's where you kick the ball from. So they're getting better field position.
Of course.
And it's 83.1%, which is the lowest success rate.
Right.
You're giving them incredible field position, and you're only up 3.
And I think this is the strongest argument there is, that of all the 3 options, field goal is the worst, as you just mentioned.
Yep.
Either punt or go for it. Yeah.
Now, let's talk about what actually happened.
Yep.
You can ice the game or get a penalty. Trust the defense. The defense was playing phenomenally. I get it. I
Yep.
really do get the decision. If you're successful, 100% win percentage. I mean, it's the only one
Right.
of the 3 options that
First down,
100%
no
you have a
timeouts.
chance to win.
Right. Right.
Yeah. But if you're not successful, they get the ball in the 35, and your win percentage goes from 97 to 87. It drops 10%.
Right.
So I understand why they did, because that is the way to win the game. But your win percentage drops way more than if you punt it.
So the best situation would have been, I'm sorry, the best situation that they didn't choose, right, other than going for it and getting it, is a punt within the 15 or the 10-yard line.
Yes.
Okay. And you would think with your punter and with the short field, like you said, just hanging one up there, you probably got a pretty good shot. We don't know what the analytics are that your punt is going to be successful the way you want it. That's a whole other story. But like this part of this is just like trusting your personnel, right? So that's why I'm surprised, Sam, that of all the options that Nick Sirianni talked about after the game and even the next day, do you realize he never even talked about punting? It was always either why I didn't choose the field goal and why I did go for it. It's very interesting to me.
That is interesting. Even though the
He never
analytics,
mentioned punting.
this is not even the only model that says it. There was some good content creators on X that I saw that had other models that all said the punt was the right choice. Pretty consistently.
But yeah. Now here's the part where we acknowledge analytics don't always game is going, who's hurt, what your personnel is like, right? I mean, the way the game is
and
kind
man
of struggled.
I mean, the wind and man struggled, so I get it.
Yeah. So just really interesting stuff there. I'm really glad this is the first time we've gone into game theory where you've brought that tool into inside the data, and I really like that.
And maybe eventually I'll have my own model, but I was not I did not have one ready to go right now.
Awesome. All right, let's fly through the defense here. Obviously, it's just like we talked about with the offense. You're going to see a lot of good numbers on defense. They were pretty good there from an EPA standpoint and everything.
Pretty great.
Right on par with the season in time to throw, right?
Mm-hmm.
Higher in time to pressure, which you would expect. Jalen Phillips' addition mattered, so they had a higher quarterback pressure percentage, 40.5. That's actually significantly higher than their season average of 35.2. Sack percentage was up from 5. All their defensive numbers are up in a pretty big, and I would say profound way.
Instant impact by Jalen Phillips. It truly was. It truly was instant impact. And that's why you'll notice I did not pick a star of the stat sheet for the offense.
Right. Why would you?
Yeah, but I did for the defense, and you've alluded to who it was.
Yes, and let's get to him.
To close it off, I took the next gen stats for Jalen Phillips. You can go down, don't worry.
Okay.
I just took his because I just thought they were fun, and I figured it's a good way to end. It's a positive note.
Yes, I saw them too. They were great.
But Vic is finally comfortable because you know how you can tell? He didn't blitz very much. It was one of the lowest blitz rates, and we'll talk about it. So individual impact. Jalen Phillips generated 7 pressures on 36 pass rushes. His most in any game since 2022, week 18 in 2022, and second most by any Eagle in a game this season. Instant impact.
Yep.
He recorded a pressure rate of 15% since entering the league in 2021, which is the 11th highest among players with at least 1,000 pass rushes over the last 5 seasons. Immediate impact. The Eagles posted a 40.5% pressure rate against the Packers, their 3rd highest of the season, despite a season-low blitz rate, 9.5%. We're back to Vic's comfort level.
That's what won him a Super Bowl. No blitzing, still getting pressure. I love it.
That's what they've been missing. He's finally been able to, I think Brandon Graham being back helped to some extent.
Sure, Nolan Smith too. He played.
Of course. Nolan Smith was a huge part of it.
Put out Elton Jenkins again. Poor kid, poor guy. He broke his ankle now. But
it is tough. He's struggled. It's
same guy though. That's the crazy thing. Remember? Oh,
You hate to see it. You never want anyone to get hurt. It's always hard,
Yep.
regardless of what team you're on. Injuries never fun.
Right.
But when rushing 4 fewer defenders against the Packers, Eagles generated a season-high 15 pressures and a 39.5% pressure rate, second highest in 2025.
Yeah. They got, I don't know if you remember the play, they got a 3-man rush going. It would look like a 4-man rush. It was actually Jalen Carter was lined up over right tackle, and Jalen Phillips was lined up as a 4-eye, like interior rusher. But he actually dropped into a spy. They got pressure with 3 anyway, and Phillips was kind of scrambled. And sorry, not Phillips, the quarterback, Love scrambled, and Phillips had to work as a spy, just worked his way through the traffic and chased him to the sideline, where I think he just threw it out of bounds. And I'm like, that was incredible. They got pressure on a 3. I hate the 3-man rush. They got pressure on a 3-man rush, and Jalen Phillips, we saw him use as a spy. So that's when I knew Vic was in his bag.
No, and you can tell he was much more comfortable because he has somebody that can generate pressure. It was a different defense in terms of pressure and in terms of scheme. What's interesting is you talked about Carter kind of on the edge. And there was another stat that I saw on the Insights tab of NFL Pro where Jalen Carter has a line on the edge on a career high 13.4% this season. Last season, the last 2 seasons together was 4.6.
Yeah, I've noticed
he's
that
almost
too.
tripled.
Yeah, and they're doing more stunting now, and I think that's going to continue with the addition of Jalen Phillips. Who's a really good athlete who's played inside and outside, so he has a really good feel for how to work those TE stunts, whether he's the picker or the looper. Like I think that's going to be a big addition to this defense.
Yeah, I absolutely think so, and you could just tell that Fangio felt way more comfortable. And honestly, independent of those blitz statistics, which I think are the most compelling evidence to show that he is happy with it. He's comfortable. He's able to. But I do think everything else you said also adds to that as well.
There you go. And then you had his pressure rate at 17% this season, which includes his Dolphins stats. So that's the highest of his career.
Yep.
Yeah, 9th highest among players with at least 100 pass rushes. So he's clearly bounced back from the lower leg injuries in back-to-back years. I mean, he's playing at the level that you would expect him to play, which is always good to see.
Absolutely.
And I thought his run defense was underrated in this game. He did a good job at least 2 or 3 times on Inside the Tape. We showed him shedding either a tight end or a tackle and then making the run stop himself.
Yeah, absolutely.
Tied for 7th most run stuffs and 8th most run stops among all edge defenders that you have there in the NFL. So it's good stuff. Hey, Philly fans, game day is stressful enough. Parking, traffic, long lines. We've all been there. But when it comes to your cannabis, Camden Apothecary makes it easy. This is the dispensary for sports fans, just minutes outside of Philly with plenty of free parking. You'll be in and out fast, no hassle, no waiting. And they don't just care about convenience. Camden Apothecary is all about the guest experience. Their staff makes sure you feel taken care of every time you walk in. Plus, they carry only the best quality cannabis at the fairest prices. So whether you're stocking up for the tailgate, the watch party, or celebrating a big win, you know you're getting the good stuff without overpaying. They even show love to the community with specials for fans, students, service members, and healthcare pros. Camden Apothecary, top quality cannabis, great prices, and an experience made for Philly fans 21 and up. Awesome. Hey, man, this was a really good episode. That was a really nice deep dive into game theory, third down, the Phillips impact and the offense. So thanks. Awesome work for your awesome work. And this next week should be interesting with the Lions up next, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. I'm sure you're going to, well, we'll see how the game turns out. Either way, you're going to be anxious to dive in to the analytics, and we'll bring them to you here on Inside the Birds. So Sam, once again, thank you for all the great work. That is Sam Finkel. I'm Geoff Mosher. You've been watching Inside the Data on Inside the Birds.